What if everything you remember is wrong? What if the people you trust most have been slowly, deliberately rewriting your reality, making you doubt your own mind, your own memories, even your own sanity? You'd notice, right? Or would you? Imagine this. You bring up something that hurt you, something you know happened, but the person looks at you with confusion, even pity. That never happened, they say. You're imagining things, and the way they say it, so calm, so sure. A chill runs down your spine, because you remember it clearly, don't you? This isn't just manipulation. This is something darker, something more calculated. This is gaslighting, a psychological trap so subtle, so insidious, that by the time you realize what's happening, you no longer trust yourself enough to escape. And the scariest part? It's everywhere. In relationships, in families, in the shadows of power. It's the reason someone can make you apologize for their lies. The reason you lie awake at night wondering, am I losing my mind? But here's the truth. You're not crazy. You've been played, and once you see the game, you can't unsee it. So let's pull back the curtain. Let's follow the trail of psychological breadcrumbs, the twisted tactics, the brain's betrayal, the eerie science behind why gaslighting works, because this isn't just about catching a liar. It's about reclaiming your reality. And by the end of this, you'll never look at trust the same way again. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture this. You're standing in a room and the lights flicker. Just for a second. You blink. Did that really happen? The person next to you doesn't react. You must be tired, they say. The lights are fine. But you saw it, didn't you? This is how it starts. Not with a scream, but with a whisper. A seed of doubt, planted so carefully you don't even feel it take root. And here's the terrifying truth. Your brain is wired to believe them. Science shows that human memory is fragile, malleable, like clay in the hands of a sculptor. Repeat a lie often enough, and the mind begins to reshape itself around it. Studies have found that false memories can be implanted with startling ease. So, when someone tells you, that never happened, part of you starts to wonder, did it? Gaslighting doesn't just attack what you think, it attacks how you think. It exploits cognitive dissonance, that gnawing discomfort when reality clashes with what you're told. To ease the pain, the mind does the unthinkable. It betrays itself. It chooses the path of least resistance, believing the manipulator, because the alternative is too destabilizing. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. The gaslighter's words become the voice in your head, and that's when the cage locks shut. But why? Why do some people do this? The answer slithers through the darkest corners of psychology. For some, it's about control, an insatiable hunger to dominate, to be the puppet master pulling every string. For others, it's fear. If they can make you doubt yourself, you'll never hold them accountable. And then there are those who don't even realize they're doing it. They learned this dance long ago, in rooms where love came with conditions and truth was a bargaining chip. The most chilling part? Gaslighting thrives in silence. It's not the loud, explosive fights that leave the deepest scars. It's the quiet erosion of your certainty. The way a partner's sigh can make you swallow your anger. The way a parent's dismissive laugh can make a child's feelings vanish into thin air. These are the unrecorded crimes, the psychological thefts that leave no fingerprints. And here's what they don't want you to know. The moment you question the narrative, the moment you think, wait, that doesn't add up, you've already begun to break free. Because the real illusion isn't your perception, it's their power. And illusions, no matter how convincing, can always be shattered. You're sitting across from them, heart pounding, as they say the words you've heard 1,000 times before. You're remembering it wrong. But this time, something shifts, a flicker of recognition. Because suddenly, you see the pattern. The carefully crafted moves of a psychological chess game where every piece is designed to make you doubt your next move. Let's pull back the curtain on these tactics, not as a list, but as a trail of breadcrumbs leading deeper into the maze. It begins with denial, not the ordinary kind, but something far more sinister. That never happened, they say, their voice dripping with such conviction that for a moment you wonder if you dreamed it. But you didn't. And that's the point. When reality is erased with such ease, the ground beneath you starts to feel like quicksand. Studies show that repeated denial can actually alter memory. Your brain, desperate for stability, starts rewriting history to match their version. And just like that, the past becomes whatever they say it is. Then comes the slow poison of trivialization. You're too sensitive, they sigh, as if your pain is a childish whim. It's a masterstroke, because now, not only are you hurt, but you're also ashamed of feeling hurt. Your emotions become proof of your instability, and theirs become the benchmark of normal. Ever notice how the goalposts always move? How what was no big deal yesterday is suddenly your fault today? That's not confusion, that's strategy. And then, the grand illusion, the art of projection. You're the one who's manipulative. They snap, their eyes wide with feigned hurt. It's dizzying, isn't it? The sheer audacity of it. Psychological research reveals that manipulators often accuse others of their own behaviors, a twisted mirror trick that leaves victims scrambling to defend against their own reflection. The truth becomes a hall of mirrors, and every turn leads back to their narrative. But perhaps the most devastating move is the silent one. The gradual isolation. The friends you used to see, they don't really care about you. The family you confide in, they're turning you against me. Brick by brick, they build walls around you until their voice is the only one you hear. And in that echo chamber, even the loudest truths sound like whispers. Here's what's chilling. These tactics aren't random. They're calculated, deliberate, each one a thread in a web designed to make you the fly. But threads can be cut, and the first step is seeing the web for what it is. So tell me, how many of these breadcrumbs have you already followed? There's a moment, just before the storm hits, when the air goes still. That eerie quiet where something feels off. Your instincts whisper before your mind catches up. And that's the moment we need to talk about, because gaslighting doesn't announce itself with a scream. It slithers in on the back of a sigh, a smirk, a sentence so casually cruel it takes your breath away. But here's the secret. Your body knows before you do. That knot in your stomach, the way your skin prickles when they say you're too sensitive, those aren't overreactions, they're alarms. Think about the last time you left a conversation feeling smaller, like you'd been sanded down, your edges smoothed into something more palatable for them. That's the first clue. Gaslighting isn't just about what's said. It's about what's stolen. Your confidence, your sense of reality, the unshakable knowing that used to live in your bones. And the theft happens so slowly, you don't even notice the pieces missing, until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. Pay attention to the ghosts, the conversations that vanish into thin air. I never said that. The events that supposedly never happened. You're making things up again. The way your memories start feeling like dreams, hazy and unreliable. This isn't forgetfulness. This is systematic dismantling. Research shows that prolonged gaslighting can physically alter how your brain stores information, your very neurons rewiring to accommodate their lies. And the most dangerous part? You'll blame yourself for the gaps. Listen for the language of doubt. Are you sure you're remembering correctly? You always take things the wrong way. Phrases designed to make you second guess, to hand over the keys to your own mind. Notice how often you apologize for things you didn't do. How quickly your anger turns to shame, how their mistakes somehow always circle back to being your fault. That's not love. That's not even conflict. That's psychological warfare. But here's what they never expect. The moment you catch them. When you see the flicker of panic in their eyes because you kept a receipt, a text, a recording of the truth. That split second when the mask slips, that's your power returning. Because the greatest weapon against gaslighting isn't proof, though that helps. It's the quiet, unshakable voice that says, I know what I saw, I know what I heard, and no amount of your rewriting will change that. So tell me, how many of these red flags have you explained away? How many gut feelings have you buried under, maybe I'm wrong? The tragedy isn't falling for the illusion. It's continuing to believe in it long after the curtain's been pulled back. There comes a moment, a single, breathless instant, when you realize You've been living in someone else's reality. Their lies have been your walls, their words your prison. But here's the truth they never wanted you to discover. Every lock has a key. And that key? It's been in your hand all along. Let's start with the most radical act of rebellion you can commit: trusting yourself again. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But after months or years of being told your memories are fiction and your emotions are flaws, self-trust feels like trying to light a match in a hurricane. So start small. That conversation that left you unsettled? Write it down immediately. Every word, every pause, every flicker of their expression. Time distorts under gaslighting, but ink doesn't fade. Suddenly, when they say, "I never called you pathetic," you'll have your own words staring back, unshaken, unedited, undeniable. Now, the dangerous part: breaking the spell in real time. When they hit you with, "You're too sensitive," imagine this. Instead of folding, you go still. Then, with the calm of someone who's just discovered the hidden door in the maze, you say, "That's interesting. Explain to me exactly how I'm being too sensitive." Watch what happens. Gaslighters crumble under the weight of specifics. They need your compliance, not your questions. And that moment, when their mask slips, is the first taste of oxygen after being underwater for years. But here's what no one tells you. Escape isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's silent. It's the night you don't answer their 3 a.m. call. The morning you realize you haven't mentally rehearsed an apology in weeks. The slow, seismic shift of rebuilding your inner compass. Not by some grand gesture, but through microscopic acts of defiance. Eating what you want without hearing their critique in your head. Wearing the color they always mocked. These aren't just choices. They're landmines planted in the battlefield of your mind, each one exploding another chain they wrapped around you. Recovery isn't linear. It's a haunting. There will be days when their voice still echoes in your decisions, when you catch yourself seeking their approval for choices that are yours alone. This isn't failure. This is excavation. Every time you pause and ask, "Is this really what I want?" You're sifting through the rubble for the person they buried, and piece by piece you'll find them. The final stage? Not forgiveness, not unless you want it, but something far more powerful. Indifference. That glorious moment when their opinion of you matters as much as a stranger's. When you can recall the manipulation not with rage, but with the detached curiosity of a scientist examining a specimen. This is when you'll know, truly know, that the prison door was never locked. It was just painted to look that way. So here's your challenge. Tonight, when the world goes quiet, ask yourself one terrifying, liberating question. Not what they've told you to be or think or feel, but who you were before they ever whispered your name. That person? They're still there, waiting in the shadows, and they've got so much to show you. Here's a secret they never wanted you to know. The most powerful illusions crumble the moment you stop believing in them. Gaslighting isn't magic. It's a con artist's trick, relying on your willingness to doubt your own eyes. But what happens when you stop playing along? When you look directly at the strings they're pulling and smile? This isn't just about spotting manipulation. It's about something far more dangerous. To them. It's about you remembering that your mind isn't a haunted house they get to roam freely. Those whispers telling you you're crazy or too much? They were never about truth. They were about control. And control is a fragile thing. It dies the second you stop feeding it your fear. Think about this. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is hearing "that never happened" for the first time. Their hands are shaking, their stomach is tight with confusion, but because of what you know now, because you've seen behind the curtain, that person might be you a little less, or someone you love, or a stranger who needed these words like oxygen. That's how we break the cycle, not with anger, but with knowledge passed like a torch in the dark. So as the screen fades and the credits roll on this chapter, I leave you with one final question. What reality will you choose to live in tomorrow? Theirs or yours? The terrifying, exhilarating truth is, it was always your choice. You just had to remember you were holding the key.